Hey guys, Lunik here. This is going to be the third of my 3 videos for tutorial on jungle paths that I'm doing for my guide. And this is going to be showing you how to start at your blue buff and then do a successful gank. In this case, we're going to be ganking top lane and getting first blood there. So the first thing you want to notice about what we're doing in this game is that I'm actually telling my team to invade their blue buff. The reason is because they have a blitzcrank. So what's going to happen is that most of the time blitzcranks, even though they have a lack of CC, especially because Fiddle doesn't start with Fear if he's going to jungle, because that will slow down his jungle tremendously, blitzcranks like to invade. So most of the time they will go along this path, but in this case they probably wouldn't stay and head back. So the idea I had was going to catch them, go along this path right here, and actually come back around and start at that bush, and then wait for them to come back and kill them along the way with Taric stun. But you actually saw how Blitzcrank was waiting there. It looked like they were either just defending their buff, which was unlikely because there was a greater than Blitz, or they were actually planning to invade our red buff, or go for a level 1 fight versus Misfortune and Taric there. You'll actually see that in case either that's going to happen, Taric's going to ward this tri-bush right here. But that was pretty much a successful level 1 for us, because one of Blitzcrank's main advantages is the ability to isolate someone at level 1 and let your team focus them without the enemy team being there. At the very least, burn someone's flash. So none of that happened, and he didn't decide to grab me, so I didn't have to burn my ghost when we were looking at each other over there. So that was successful. So we're just going to start at my wolves, and we'll proceed the game how a game would normally go if there were no invades anyways. And what you're going to notice is, in comparison to the other two jungling videos, I am going to use my smite in this, because I did tell my Jax that I was going to gank. So what's going to happen is that I'm going to smite this to make my blue go faster, and he's actually nice tanking that for me, so I don't have to take any damage on that. But I'm going to smite it for that quick clear, and because it's going to be back up in the time I go for my red. And you also want to notice map awareness. Blitzcrank just placed a ward there. They actually pinged that down nicely. And I'm headed through this tri-bush because he's playing aggressive already. And Jax has a good amount of damage right there. So when he heads back right like that, I ping in and we go in for this kill. The reason that I went for this, actually, if you want to see, is that he didn't start with boots, and he only had ghost, so he had no reasonable way of escaping, especially with my slow. So that was a very easy first gank. And now what's happening is, I'm just going to be heading back to my jungle. Mid's slightly pushed up past the midway point. You see the minions are actually in the midway point. She's pushed back to her wall right there, so that's not going to be a feasible gank, especially against boots level 1. And bot lane for right now is not the wisest gank, because of Blitzcrank, especially because I have to waste my path and go all the way down there. Bot generally becomes an easier gank later on, when you have more CC and you have more damage, like when Misfortune gets better. But right now you don't really want to go for that. Now you see I'm actually going to be taking these wraiths and going to my red, and then head to my wolves to hit my level 4 off that. I did get my heal level 3 per the guide, because the heal, again, it's small, but it will heal you up over time. I cannot stress that enough, especially with blue buff. You can just spam that unlimitedly, so over the time this is going to heal me for probably around 300 damage, even though it's only a 60 individual thing. So again, that smite is back up from blue buff. Take that buff and head over here. And my plan actually is, you see how pushed up Jax is? And you see what time it is? That means that Fiddles is going to have double buffs, if not now, extremely soon. So I wanted to head here and get my level 4, then I was actually going to plan to go to this bush and then camp the tri-bush for Fiddlesticks, so that we can get a good gank on it, actually go for a counter gank. But instead what we're going to see is that, I was just waiting for wolves there, what we're going to see is that Fiddlesticks is actually going to come, and I'm going to have to rush up to counter gank. But the key thing you want to realize about this is that key to playing any jungler really is anticipating what the enemy jungler is going to do and knowing the jungle times. Fiddles is a slower jungler, so we could predict that he was going to gank around 4 minutes if he wanted to gank level 4 double buffs. So you actually see me ghosting in here, hasting my Jax to get him out of there. That's what you can use your heal for. Then going onto York, because we know he burned his ghost before, so we're going for that. Jax will be safe, but we actually want to retreat from Fiddlesticks because Jax is extremely low and Fiddlesticks is still very potent, especially early on, since we don't have a stun to get rid of his drain initially. So I actually pinged my Jax to be careful that I'm going back. And that was really a very, very successful early game. You're going to see me get more kills here in a snowball, and actually I believe this was a 6-0-5 0 deaths victory for me. So picking up Berserker Greaves and a Doran's Blade. You want the Doran's Blade. You want to try and get your Zerka's Greaves if you can before Doran Blade, because that'll give you better ganks, faster jungle. The Doran's Blade just gives you a little bit more secure jungle, and it will increase your damage significantly in 1v1 fights, but the Zerka's Greaves are a priority. So thanks for joining in. I hope you're enjoying the guide, and I will see you later. This was Lunik, and this was how to start a blue in Gank.